My humble Hare Krishna, dear devotees, my humble obeisances unto all of you. Today I'm going to recite chapter 5 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Narada's instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam for Vyasadeva. There are lots of tongue twisters in this. Please forgive me for my mistakes. I'll start with the invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 1. Suta Uvacha Atha Tam Sukham Asina Upasinam Brahma Shravaha Devarshi Praha Viprashim Veena Pani Smayan Iva.
Hare Krishna. Should I read the English translation?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Text 1. Sutta Goswami said, thus the sage amongst the gods, Narada, comfortably seated and apparently smiling, addressed the rishi amongst the brahmanas, without Vyasa.
Text 2. Narada Uvacha Parasharya Mahabhaga Bhavata Kacchidatmana Paritushyati Sharira Atma Manasa Eva Va.
Translation. Addressing Vyasadeva, the son of Parasara, Narada inquired, are you satisfied by identifying with the body or the mind as objects of self-realization?
Text 3. Jigyasitam susampannam apite mahadadbhutam kritvan bharatam yastvam sarvartha paribhramitam.
Translation. Your inquiries were full and your studies were also well fulfilled. And there's no doubt that you have prepared a great and wonderful work, the Mahabharata, which is full of all kinds of Vedic sequences elaborately explained.
Text 4. Jigyasitam adhitam cha brahma yattat sanatanam tathapi shochasi atmanam akritartha iva prabho.
Translation. You have fully delineated the subject of impersonal Brahman as well as the knowledge derived therefrom. Why should you be despondent in all spite of all this, thinking that you are undone, my dear Prabhu?
Text 5. Vyasa uvacha asti eva me sarvam idam tvayoktam tathapi natma paritushyate me tanmulam avyaktam agadhabodham prachamahe tvatma bhavatma bhutam.
Sri Vasudev said, all you have said about me is perfectly correct. Despite all this, I'm not pacified. I therefore question you about the root cause of my dissatisfaction, for you are a man of unlimited knowledge due to your being the offspring of one Brahmana, who is self-born without mundane father and mother.
Text 6. Savai bhavan veda samasta guhyam upasito yat purusha puranaha paravaresho manasaiva vishwam srijatyavyatyati gunaira sangaha.
My Lord, everything that is mysterious is known to you because you worship the creator and destroyer of the material world and the maintainer of the spiritual world, the original personality of Godhead, who is transcendental to the three modes of material nature.
Text 7. Tvam paryatan narka iva trilokim antascharo vayurivatma sakshi paravare brahmani dharmato vrate natasya me nunyam alam vichakshva.
Like the sun, your goodness can travel everywhere in the three worlds, and like the air, you can penetrate the internal region of everyone. As such, you are as good as the full pervasive supersoul. Please, therefore, find out the deficiency in me, despite my being absorbed in transcendence under disciplinary regulations and vows.
Text 8. Shri Narada Uvacha Bhavatmanudita Prayam Yasho Bhagavato Amalam Yanaiva Sauna Tushyeta Manya Taddarshanam Khilam.
Sri Narada said, "You have not actually broadcast the sublime and spotless glories of personality of Godhead. That philosophy which does not satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord is considered worthless."
Text 9. Yatha dharmadayaschartha munivyaranukirtitaha na tatha vasudevasya mahimahyanuvarnitaha.
Although a great sage, you have very broadly described the four principles beginning with religious performances. You have not described the glories of the Supreme Personality of Vasudeva.
Text 10. Na yadvachaschitrapadam hareryasho jagat pavitram pragrinita karhichet tatvyasam tetham ushanti manasa na yatra hamsa nirmanti yushikshaya.
Those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be like unto a place of pilgrimage for souls. Since the all-perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there.
Text 11. Tadvagvisargo janatagaha viplavo yasmin pratishlokam abhadavati api namani anantasya yasho ankitani yat shrinvanti gayanti dinanti sadavaha.
On the other hand, the literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, form, pastimes, etc., of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a different creation, full of transcendental words, directed toward bringing about a revolution in the entire lives of the world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest.
Text 12. Naishkarmyam apyachyuta bhavavarjitam na shobhate jnanam alam niranjanam kuta puna shashvadabhadram ishvare na charpitam karma yaddapya akaranam.
Knowledge of self-realization, even though free from all material affinity, does not look well if devoid of conception of the infallible God. What then is the use of fruitive activities which are naturally painful from the very beginning and transient by nature, if they are not utilized for the devotional service of the Lord?
Text 13. Atho mahabhaga bhavanamo gadrik Ruchi Shrava Satyarato Dhritavratah Urukramasyakhila Bandhamuktaye Samadhu Anusmara Tadvicheshtitam.
O Vyasudeva, your vision is completely perfect. Your good fame is spotless. You are firm in vow and situated in truthfulness. And thus you can think of the pastimes of the Lord in trance for the liberation of the people in general from all material bondage.
Text 14. Tato anyatha akinchana yad vivakshatah Prithagdrishastatra krita rupanamabhi na karhichit kwapi cha dushtitamatir labhetha vatahata nauripaspadam.
Whatever you desire to describe that is separate in vision from the Lord simply reacts with different forms, names, and results to agitate the mind as the wind agitates the boat which has no resting place.
Text 15. Juguksitam dharma krite anushashatah स्वभावरक्तस्य महान् व्यतिक्रमः यद्वयक्तो धर्म इतीतरस्थितो न मन्यते तस्य निवारणं जना.
People in general are naturally inclined to enjoy, and you have encouraged them in that way in the name of religion. This is verily condemned and is quite unreasonable. Because they are guided under your instructions, they will accept such activities in the name of religion and will hardly care for prohibitions.
Text 16. Vichakshanosyaarhati veditum vibhor anantaparasya nivritita sukham pravarta manasya gunerananta manas tato bhavan darshaya cheshtitam vibho.
The Supreme Lord is unlimited. Only a very expert personality retired from the activities of material happiness deserves to understand this knowledge of spiritual values. Therefore, those who are not so well situated due to material attachment should be shown the ways of transcendental realization by your goodness through descriptions of the transcendental activities of the Supreme Lord.
Text 17. Tyaktva swadharmam charana ambujam hare bhajanna pakvo thapate tato yadi yatra kwa bhadram abhud amushyakim ko vartha apto bhajatam swadharmatah.
One who has forsaken his material occupations to engage in the devotional service of the Lord may sometimes fall down while in an immature stage, yet there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. On the other hand, a non-devotee, though fully engaged in occupational duties, does not gain anything.
Text 18. Tasyaiva heto prayetata kovido na labhyate yad bhramatam upariya ada tallabhyate dukkavad anatta sukham kalena sarvatra gabhira ramhasa.
Persons who are actually intelligent and philosophically inclined should endeavor only for that purposeful end which is not obtainable even by wandering from the topmost planet, Brahmaloka, down to the lowest planet, Patala. As far as happiness derived from sense enjoyment is concerned, it can be obtained automatically in course of time, just as in course of time we obtain miseries even though we do not desire them.
Text 19. Navai jano jatu kathanchan avrajena mukunda sevyan vad anga samshritam smaran mukundhangri upagunam punar vihatum ichchena narasagraho jana.
My dear Vyasa, even though a devotee of Lord Krishna sometimes falls down somehow or other, he suddenly does not undergo material existence like others, free to workers, etc., because a person who has once realized the taste of the lotus feet of the Lord can do nothing but remember that ecstasy again and again.
Text 20. Idam hi vishwam bhagavan ivataro yato jagatsthana nirodha sambhava tadhi swayam veda bhavam stathapi te pradeshamatram bhavata pradarshitam.
The Supreme Lord the Supreme Lord Personality of Godhead is himself his cosmos, and still he is aloof from it. From him only has his cosmic manifestation emanated, in him it rests, and unto him it enters after annihilation. Your good self knows all about this. I've given only a synopsis. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the lovely recitations. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, are you here now?
Yes, Mataji, I'm
Okay,
here.
Hare Krishna. I will make you the host now, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, sure. Yeah, can everyone see the screen?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, excellent. So we are going to discuss 1.5.13 today. So let's chant the verse and then we will continue. अथो महाभाव भवान् मोघदृक् शुचिश्रवः सत्यरतो घृतव्रतः उरुक्रमस्याखिलबन्धमुक्तये समाधिनानुस्मर तद्विचेष्टितम् अथो महाभाग भवान् मोघदृक् शुचिश्रवः सत्यरतो घृतव्रतः उरुक्रमस्याखिलबन्धमुक्तये समाधिनानुस्मर तद्विचेष्टितम् अथो महाभाग भवान् मोघदृक् शुचिश्रवः सत्यरतो घृतव्रतः उरुक्रमस्याखिलबन्धमुक्तये समाधिनानुस्मर तद्विचेष्टितम्. Let's read the translation. The word by word. Atho, therefore, Mahabhaga, highly fortunate. Bhavan, yourself. Amoghadruk, the perfect seer. Shuchi, spotless. Shravaha, famous. Satyarataha, having taken the vow of truthfulness. Dhrit Vrataha, fixed in spiritual quality. Dridha is also the same meaning as Dhrita, Vrataha, fixed in spiritual qualities. Urukramasya, of the one who performs supernatural activities, who is God. Akhila is bondage. Muktaye, for liberation from. Samadhina, by trance. Anusmara, think repeatedly and then describe them. Tad vicheshtitam, various pastimes of the Lord. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. O Vyasadeva, your vision is completely perfect. Your good fame is spotless. You are firm in vow and situated in truthfulness. And thus you can think of the pastimes of the Lord in trance for the liberation of the people in general from all material bondage. Report by Srila Prabhupada. People in general have a taste for literatures by instinct. They want to hear and read from the authorities something about the unknown. But their taste is exploited by unfortunate literatures which are full of subject matter for satisfaction of the material senses. Such literatures contain different kinds of mundane poems and philosophical speculations, more or less under the influence of Maya, ending in sense gratification. These literatures, although worthless in the true sense of the term, are variously decorated to attract the attention of the less intelligent men. Thus, the attracted living entities are more and more entangled in material bondage without hope of liberation for thousands and thousands of generations. Sri Narada Rishi, being the best among the Vaishnavas, is compassionate towards such unfortunate victims of worthless literatures, and thus he advises Sri Vyasadeva to compose transcendental literature which is not only attractive but can also actually bring liberation from all kinds of bondage. Sri Vyasadeva or his representatives are qualified because they are rightly trained to see things in true perspective. Srila Vyasadeva and his representatives are pure in thought due to their spiritual enlightenment, fixed in their vows due to their devotional service, and determined to deliver the fallen souls rotting in material activities. The fallen souls are very eager to receive novel informations every day, and the transcendentalists like Vyasadeva or Narada can supply such eager people in general with unlimited news from the spiritual world. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the material world is only a part of the whole creation, and that this earth is only a fragment of the whole material world. The first paragraph itself is so powerful of this verse. It's worth meditating on and reading again and again. We'll go for the second paragraph now, which is a bit bigger than the first one. There are thousands and thousands of literary men all over the world, and they have created many thousands of literary works for the information of the people in general for thousands and thousands of years. Unfortunately, none of them have brought peace and tranquility on the earth. This is due to a spiritual vacuum in those literatures. Therefore, the Vedic literatures, especially the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, are specifically recommended to suffering humanity to bring about the desired effect of liberation from the pangs of material civilization, which is eating the vital part of human energy. The Bhagavad Gita is the spoken message of the Lord Himself, recorded by Vyasadeva, and the Srimad Bhagavatam is the transcendental narration of the activities of the same Lord Krishna, which alone can satisfy the hankering desires of the living being for eternal peace and liberation from miseries. Srimad Bhagavatam, therefore, is meant for all the living beings all over the universe for total liberation from all kinds of material bondage. Such transcendental narrations of the pastimes of the Lord can be described only by liberated souls like Vyasadeva and his bona fide representatives, who are completely merged in transcendental loving service of the Lord. Only to such devotees do the pastimes of the Lord and their transcendental nature become automatically manifest by dint of devotional service. No one else can either know or describe the acts of the Lord, even if they speculate on the subject for many years. These descriptions of the Bhagavatam are so precise and accurate that whatever has been predicted in this great literature about 5,000 years ago is now exactly happening. Therefore, the vision of the author comprehends past, present, and futures. Such liberated persons are as Vyasadeva, are perfect not only by the power of vision and wisdom, senses, and with perfect senses, Rishikesha, Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam, therefore, is the perfect description of the all-perfect personality of Godhead by the all-perfect personality, Srila Vyasadeva, the compiler of the Vedas. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati. Yam Pragajetamanopetamapetakrtyam Vaipayano Viraha Aju Ava Putreti Tanmayayo Taravo Vinedus Tam Sarva Bhutardayam Vimanatosmi. Yeah. So I think, yeah, my internet connection is little bit unstable. So still we will try to keep things in a good stream. So let's read this is a very important verse. So let's read it again with the translation and then we will continue our discussion. Atho Mahabhaga Bhavan Moghadruk Shuchishravah Satyarato Vritavritah Purukramasya Bandha Muktaye Samadhinanu Smaratad Vicheshtitam. And the translation is, O Vyasdev, your vision is completely perfect. Your good fame is spotless. You are firm in vow and situated in truthfulness. And thus you can think of the pastimes of the Lord in trance for the liberation of the people in general from all material bondage. So, so the important point here, Sripad Narad Muni is emphasizing is the personality of Srila Vyasadeva, who is perfect to deliver the knowledge, the transcendental knowledge, and his qualities, of course, and the importance of that transcendental knowledge, where the establishment of the Lord as the supreme personality of Godhead. So before Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Vyasadeva has delivered different Vedic knowledge, that is for Mukhya Ved, Rig, Yajur, Sam, and Atharva. And then he has given Upaved, Gandharva Ved, Sthapatya Ved, Sankhya Ved, Dhanurved, so on. And then he has given Vedanta Sutra, then he has given Itihasas, he has given Puranas, which is coming right up from his father, Parashar Muni, who gave the Vishnu Puran, where the importance of Srimad Bhagavatam is greatly emphasized in Padma Puran and Vishnu Puran. So there are all the Puranas which are already given. And then he's saying that now for the coming the coming days, for this Kali Yuga, the most important, the crux of all the literatures, what he has delivered, needs to be given, and which is none other than Srimad Bhagavatam. Does it mean Srimad Bhagavatam he's giving for the first time? No, that's not the case. Srimad Bhagavatam is there, it is eternally there. But now, this needs to be given for the people, for the benefit. And that's what Sripad Narad Muni is emphasizing here. The type of knowledge specifically. So how was this literature given to Lord Brahma in the beginning? Where is Srimad Bhagavatam coming with as a Chaitya Guru for Lord Brahma? It came from Lord Vishnu, his father. And then from Lord Brahma, it was given to Sripad Narad Muni. So when Lord Vishnu gave this knowledge to Lord Brahma, it was just one word, tapa. And by austerities, he started understanding and realizing the greatness of the Lord, his pastimes, his qualities, his holy name, and everything. Thereafter, he gave this knowledge to Narad Muni. How? Just by giving 4 verses. So one word, one verse was given by Lord Vishnu to his son, Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma gave 4 verses to Sripad Narad Muni. And from the four verses, he gave 10 verses to Srila Vyasadeva, who is also the literal incarnation of the Lord. And then Vyasadeva, Shukdev Goswami was there in the womb of his mother, where Vyasadeva was narrating these pastimes all the time. And for 16 years, Shukdev Goswami was listening to Srimad Bhagavatam. And that's where this famous verse we chant the the prayer, Yam Pravrajetamanupetamapetakrityam Dvaipayano Virahakatar Ajuava. So Shukdev Goswami, as soon as he came out after 16 years of listening to Srimad Bhagavatam in the womb of his mother, he just came out and started walking towards Vraja. Yam Pravrajetamanupetamapetakrityam Dvaipayano Virahaka. And who was experienced that Viraha? Vyasdev. Tara Ajuava. So, and then, as we know, this transcendental literature was narrated by Shukdev Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj, and at that time, Suta Goswami and his father Romaharsha Suta was present there, and then on the bank of Naimisha, in the forest of Naimisharanya, this was delivered again, and those 18,000 verses we have available, which is suitable for this age, for these people. If we go to the higher planets, there are different verses of different versions of Srimad Bhagavatam. In higher planetary system, it goes to 180,000 verses, 1 million verses, and so on and so forth. So Srimad Bhagavatam is not limited. It is eternal literature, and it is unlimited. But for our understanding and for this age, we have 18,000 verses. Here, Sripad Narad Muni is giving instruction that you are perfect. And now for this Prayanal Payusha Sarve Kalavismin Yugajanaha, this coming age of Kali Yuga, where people have very short memory, they are distressed, they are hypocritical, and they are manda buddhi, they are very dull. Mandaha sumanda matayo, manda bhagya, and their fortune is also not very good. They are unfortunate people. Manda bhagya yupadruta, and always distressed and quarrelsome. So for these people, now please be merciful. That's what Sripad Narad Muni is telling Srila Vyasdev. And this is the background. Now we will see the importance of material bondage, the liberation from the material bondage, and importance of the transcendental knowledge, which is knowledge about the personality of Godhead, and how that is related, or how we can relate to the verses from Bhagavad Gita. So we'll go through some of the verses from Bhagavad Gita, because as related to knowledge, it starts with the 4th chapter, which is transcendental knowledge, or in Sanskrit it is Jnana Yoga, and in the 7th chapter, which is knowledge of the absolute. In Sanskrit it is Vijnana Yoga, realized knowledge. So let's go through few verses from the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita and few verses from the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and then we will discuss few points related to this particular verse. So 4th chapter, the first one is this verse, Sa evayam maya tedya yogaha proktaha puratanaha bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam hyetaduktamam. Very important verse. Who can gain the knowledge? It basically establishes the qualification to gain the knowledge, and who can speak and who can absorb this knowledge. As we know, in the beginning of the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord says that yes, you can get this Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam Pavitram Idamuttamam. Most confidential knowledge you can get, oh Arjuna, because you're not envious. And here, this is the beginning of that process. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you, because you are my devotee as well as my friend, and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. So this is a qualification. Lord is telling us who is qualified to gain this knowledge, to understand this. And that's the relationship Lord has. We have to understand that we have a relationship with the Lord. Impersonal, there is nothing relationship. relationship is between only two persons. And that is why relationship with the Supreme. So Supreme means it has to be a person. Otherwise, how can there be relationship between us and him? Told by me to you because you are my devotee. Devotee means there has to be somebody who is supreme to whom a person is devoted. Again, it's a relationship. And friend, that tells again the third aspect, which is relationship. And therefore, can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. Of course, this purport is amazing, where two classes of men, devotee and demon, and Srila Prabhupada gives a very brilliant wording of what is the category of the two people who is devotee and who is a demon. Let's move on to the next verse. Otherwise, we will keep spending time in discussing only few verses. So this is a very important verse again. Vitaraga bhaya krodha manmaya mamupashritaha bahavo jnana tapasa putam adbhavamarataha. When this verse comes, yada yada hi dharmasya, then paritranaya sadhunam, and then the very important, this after these important verses, the purpose of why Lord comes. Then he says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo vetti tattvatah. Deham punarjanma neti mameti sorjuna. My act beyond logic, divya, I translate it. Evam yo vetti tattvatah. The person who understands this in principle, he will not come back to this material world. That is the promise by the Lord. Tyaktva deham punarjanma neti mameti sorjuna. When somebody leaves this material world, this body, not only the gross body, the subtle body, which is the most important sacrifice we need to do to go back to in the eternal service of the Lord. And then Lord gives, this is the caveat, this is the very important condition, he says. To understand that Janma Karma Chame Divyam, what is that condition? Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha. What's the translation? Being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, being fully absorbed in me, taking refuge in me. Many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. This is a very important point. How to be free from attachment, fear, and anger. So all these kama, krodha, lobha, mada, moha, matsara, which is lust, anger, greed, all these 6 enemies, those are there in our heart. When something is void, if it has to be filled with something, and what that need to be filled with the knowledge of the Lord, with the love, unconditional love. How to do that? That's the Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, regulated devotional service given by Srila Rupa Goswami. So here again, Prabhupada gives a very detailed, brilliantly worded details on the on this verse. Since it's a very important verse. Prabhupada also gives the details of the verse from the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, Ado Shraddha Tatha Sadhu. Yeah, it's a long purport. We won't discuss it, but I thought we will just touch upon this because Lord Prabhupada gives the details of real love of God is called prema. Is the highest perfectional stage of life. Again, and that's what Lord is giving here, that how to end this by removing all the dirt from our heart. Shunmatam Sogatha Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana. How to do that? By listening to the words either spoken by the Lord or about the Lord. By the Lord is Bhagavad Gita. He has directly spoken. About the Lord is Srimad Bhagavatam. Punya Shravana Kirtana. That is the only pious activity we should do, a human being should do. Hridyantashtho ya abhadrani. In our heart, there is dirt. Abhadra. Abhadra means inauspicious things. Is our heart. Hridyantashtho. Astha means anta is inside. Astha means which is sitting there. Hridyantashtho ya abhadrani vidunoti surasata. That will be washed away by listening the words from the Lord, spoken by the Lord, and Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. That's what the Lord is telling here. 4.28, if we read this verse, Dravya yajnas tapo yajna, yoga yajnas tatha pare, swadhyaya yajna na yajnascha, yataya samshita vrataha. Having accepted strict vows, some become enlightened by sacrificing their possessions, and others by performing severe austerities, by practicing the yoga or eightfold mysticism, or by studying the Vedas to advance in transcendental knowledge. So, why this verse I thought we will mention here? Because Srila Vyasadeva has given so much of literature before giving Srimad Bhagavatam, and that literature is very important. Does it mean that Srila Vyasadeva was going to give the literature which was in a correct consciousness and other literature was not in the right consciousness? No, that's not the case. But for his own satisfaction, he was feeling despondent that I have the incompleteness in his heart. And that's why Srimad Bhagavatam was given as a concluding statement of Vedanta Sutra, as the summary study of Vedanta Sutra. And that's the reason before this, everything is important. That's what is emphasized in Bhagavad Gita itself by the Lord. Having accepted strict vows, all these qualities are already described in other literature by Srila Vyasadeva. But again, or by studying the Vedas to advance in transcendental knowledge. Bhagavad Gita is also part of Veda. Ved means, literal meaning of Ved is knowledge, and that is transcendental knowledge. Now let's go to 4.38. Very, very important verse. It's very beautiful, very poetic verse as well. Nahi jnanena sadrusham pavitram iha vidyate tat swayam yoga samsiddha kalenatmani vindati. In this world, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge is the mature fruit of all mysticism, and one has to become accomplished in the practice of devotional service, enjoys this knowledge within himself in due course of time. So if we go back to the 4.28, and this is the important part of the purport, where Prabhupada gives different types of yajna. Which is related to different types of austerities and what are the details of the Vedic literatures related to that. So here we can see Dravyamaya Yajna, giving the charity. Dravya means charity, or the possessions, the valuables, which will elevate us to the higher planets within the universe. Then there is Tapomaya Yajna, which is Tapa means austerities. Then comes the how to do that by following different types of yogic practices. Swadhyaya Yajna, then here it is Sankhya philosophy, or engagement in the sacrifice of different studies. It's a Jnana Yogi process, very intense sacrifice someone has to do. But what is the ultimate yajna? The transcendental knowledge about the Krishna consciousness. And that's the conclusion what Prabhupada gives here. Let's move on to the next verse. This one, and that's from the again, we are still in 4th chapter. Yoga sanyasta karmanam dhyana sanchinna samshayam atmavantam na karmani nibaghnanti dhananjaya. One who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his actions, and whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in the self. Thus, he is not bound by reactions of work, O conqueror of riches. How much emphasis is there on the transcendental knowledge? That is the verses we are going through. Let's go to the 7th, some of the important verses in the 7th chapter. Can everyone still see the my screen? Hare Krishna?
No, Prabhuji, we can see you now.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry for that. We should be saying the important verses, not me.
Yes, now we can. Yeah.
Okay.
Hare.
एतद्योनीनि भूतानि सर्वाणि त्युपहारय अहं कृष्णस्य जगतः प्रभवः प्रलयस्तथा. All created beings have their source in these two natures of all that is material and that is spiritual in this world. Know for certain that I am both the origin and the dissolution. So, 7th chapter, 4th chapter, we saw the different types of knowledge, the importance of knowledge, the transcendental knowledge. Now, Lord is establishing the principle that all the 7th chapter, we can constantly see that Lord is talking about himself. I, he says, mama, aham. That means he establishes that I am a person. Only a person will say about, yes, I, me, my mind, right? Because he's talking about himself. So the personality of Godhead, Lord is a supreme person, and that's what the establishment is in the seventh chapter. Why we are going through, we will go back to this verse, today's discussion, and then we can find the relationship. 7.14, very famous verse. Daiviyesha gunamai mama maya duratya mam evaya prapadyante mayamitam tarantite. The divine energy of mind consisting of 3 modes of material nature is difficult to overcome. So any other types of knowledge is not going to help, apart from transcendental knowledge, is not going to help us to give the pacifying, give the peace, give the tranquility, give the hope of coming out of this miseries of material nature. The Lord says, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Yeah, very important verse for us. Prabhupada has emphasized this verse so much. And then we will come to the last verse. Sadhibhuta vidaivam mam sadhiyadnyam cha ye viduhu prayanakale cha mamte vidur yukta chetasaha. Those in full consciousness of me, who know me, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of the material manifestation of the demigods and of the methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the time of death. That is our ultimate objective of our life. Yeah? That knowing the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, at the time of death, remembering him, and that's the 8th chapter, the most important and famous verse, Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevram yaprayati samadbhavayati nastatra samshayaha. 100% guaranteed by the Lord, the person who remembers me at the time of death will not come back to this material world of birth, death, old age, and disease, and all the 3 types of miseries. Coming back to the verse, our today's verse here, Atho Mahabhaga Bhavana Mogadrut Shuchishravah Satyarato Bhutavratah Urukramasya Khilbandhamukte Samadhina Smar Vicheshtitam. So, why we went through these important verses from Bhagavad Gita is the establishment of the Lord's as a person, his pastimes in trance for the liberation of the people in general from all material bondage. So the truth, Satya, needs to be established, and that is the emphasis Sripad Narad Muni is saying here. By how? And thus you can think of the pastimes of the Lord in trance for the liberation of the people. Pastimes can happen only when the establishment of the principle that Lord is the Supreme Personality of Godhead will happen. Otherwise, it won't. So, some of the points we will discuss now related to this verse. We don't have a lot of time left, but let's see how far we can go. Important principle is again, as we have been discussing, Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavan iti Shabdati. Brahma is the effulgence, Paramatma is the localized expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a person in our heart, which yogic, complete personality, who is eternal, Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavan. Purusham Shashvatam, eternal personality. Purusha, Shashvat means eternal. Adideva Majam Vibhum, who is unlimited. And he is the original Supreme Lord who needs to be worshipped. So, Athato Brahma Jidnyasa, which in Vedanta Sutra, Srila Vyasadeva has emphasized on. So it is the time is to understand the transcendental nature of the literature, Brahma Jidnyasa, of our own soul. That's what Srila Vyasadeva is emphasizing here. And the reason we discussed about the people of the Kali Yuga are distressed, quarrelsome, confused, and they are interested in non-spiritual topic. Now, almost every human being in this material world, they want some kind of knowledge, either for their material gains or at times for subtle bodies gratification, and for very few people it is actually the jidnyasa or the inquisitiveness about the spiritual progress. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised Srila Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami when they wanted to surrender, to make spiritual progress, they have to give up tendencies which are detrimental for spiritual advancement. Was it necessary for Srila Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami? No. They are eternal associates of Lord Chaitanya. But it is for us, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whose sampradaya we are following. So this is his instruction for us. And what he says to Srila Rupa Goswami and to Srila Sanatana Goswami 2 different times, one in Prayagraj and second in Varanasi, set everything favorable to Krishna consciousness and reject which is unfavorable. That is, we can see that instruction in the literatures written by Sanatana Goswami, as well as literatures written by Srila Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and all others, which is our prime, which should be our prime focus for studying. Narad Muni is advising the same here, the same aspect here to Srila Vyasadeva, which what are those? That giving the emphasis on the Shastra, or what are the qualities which are necessary for the advancement in our spiritual journey. So those qualities are truthfulness, austerity, cleanliness, determination, mercy in the service of the Lord. Important is mercy in the service of the Lord. Very, very important point. And that's what Sripad Narad Muni is going to emphasize now on in all the verses, which will be discussed eventually by other speakers. Sripad Narad Muni knows that only Srila Vyasadeva, who understands and who has acquired the qualities of truthfulness, of austerity, not acquired, he has, he's the literary expansion, cleanliness, determination, and the mercy of the Vaishnavas, of his spiritual master. Very important point. And only he can speak about this path of bhakti. When the person has reached this up to that standard, he can give the details of the path of bhakti, which is the pure in the purest form, as it is given in the Guru Parampara. Now, interesting point here is, most of us are, because our objective is a sense gratification of most of the living entities in the material world, and we all know that we should be should not be listening to our senses and to our mind. But still, we have the propensity, all the living entities, that somehow or the other gain the information, gain the knowledge, which will help to gratify our senses. And that is a general common propensity. And some senior Vaishnavas and the Acharyas, they have given a very, very important formula for this. How to do that? If we, for example, if we want to hear, or if we are about romance, for example, then the pastimes of the Lord, for example, Usha and Aniruddha, Banasu's daughter and Krishna's grandson Aniruddha, and how that how they were listening. Usha was listening about the glories of Aniruddha, how beautiful he is and how grand he is, how magnanimous his personality is, from her friend. And then she developed the attraction for him. And then how that her friend brought the whole bed of Aniruddha from Dwarka to the Tejpur, which is today's where the capital of Banasu was, in somewhere in Assam, and how that happened. Those pastimes are very romantic, but still it is very purifying. Whereas if we try to learn about the romance and watch some Hollywood, Bollywood type of movie, that is polluting. That doesn't help us in purification. And that's a very simple solution for us, how we should be using our propensities of sense gratification by listening to the pastimes of the Lord. And what is that important? Some of the points I thought of writing is pastimes of the Lord are divya. And how those are divya? Because those are given by the Lord himself. When the person is talking about himself, he gives a very perfect description of what that person's activity is. And when Lord is giving the description about his pastimes, that is a perfect description. All other description, even we talk about ourselves, it will be imperfect. There will be a tinge of pride, there will be a tinge of lust, there will be a tinge of everything, all the all inauspicious things in our heart. But when Lord talks about it, it's a perfect. So we should use our propensity of listening about romance by listening to the Lord's activities, which are romantic, as we talked about Aniruddha and Usha, or Rukmini and the Supreme Lord, or any other pastimes which are related to the divine pastimes of the Lord. Because after gaining the knowledge of bhakti, our consciousness gets purified, and the cheap tendency of sense gratification will slowly diminish. And that's what our acharyas have been telling in all the commentaries. And when I was going through some of the commentaries related to this verse and other verses from the Bhagavad Gita, what we went through, so this was the important statement, especially our acharyas have given. One interesting point, it reminds us of a bit of a Gaur-Gopal styles analysis. Lord's pastimes are not only, he gives the very formula type of analysis of when he gives lecture, our dear Shiksha Guru and our speaker, His Grace Gaur-Gopal Prabhu. So this is something very interesting in some of the acronym style which is here. Lord's pastimes are related to E: entertaining, educating, emancipating, And most important, it is evolving to the higher consciousness, which are extraordinary. Lord's pastimes are extraordinary. Very important, very interesting point. I thought of just mentioning here. And then our attraction for Krishna consciousness should increase every day. That will enliven our spiritual senses and eventually fully diminish our propensity for material sense gratification. And that's the statement or kind of confirmation, the commentaries for this verse and all the related verses. Regarding this verse, what Srila Prabhupada says, I found few points here. The material knowledge is like a fly looking for some dirt, some scab of the injury or wound, and bee looking for a nectar. So attraction for transcendental knowledge is very necessary. That is the propensity of a bee. And if we have attraction towards the material knowledge, that is like a propensity of fly. And Srila Prabhupada says that very vividly in one of the lectures where he mentions about this verse. So very important point to remember. And interestingly, Srila Prabhupada says that bee and fly, they avoid each other's territories. So material knowledge, which is for sense gratification, if we use the same material knowledge or for the path of bhakti, that is good, that is necessary. That is no longer the fly mentality. That is turning the fly mentality into bee mentality. So I found that bit humorous when Srila Prabhupada was giving the details about this point. And then Prabhupada says that we are creating unnecessary necessities of life. When he spoke about the material bondage and the volumes of the books related to the material knowledge. Prabhupada's statement was, we are creating unnecessary necessities of life. Simple life, as Giriraj Maharaj says, that sweet relationships and natural product will be the beginning of the happiness in this material world. And it will take us to the mode of goodness. Very important point. Developing the higher taste, that means spiritual taste should be our only choice. Again, one of the important points Srila Prabhupada says about this particular verse. Expectation from us by Srila Prabhupada and by our Guru Parampara, that is our Acharyas, is we need to practice this path of purity and present ourselves as an example of Bhakti Yogi. What's the important verse here? Yoginam api sarvesham madgatena antaratmana. Shraddhavan bhajate yoma samyayukta tamomataha. Who is the perfect yogi? The Bhakti Yogi is the perfect yogi. Yoginam api sarvesham madgatena antaratmana. So who only focuses on the devotional service? Shraddhavan bhajate yoma. Who has a complete faith. Bhajate yoma. Who only focuses on the devotional service and nothing else. Samayukta tamohita. That person is a complete. If we don't follow the process of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, which is given by Srila Rupa Goswami, which is regulated devotional service, we will keep listening to our mind and demands of the senses, and this will lead to frustration and miseries. And we will keep performing the vikarmic activities. Very, very important point. Srila Prabhupada and our Acharyas, as well as Srila Gopal Krishna Goswami, also emphasizes on. I found this point very important because if anybody, there are only two choices, as the Prabhupada says in the beginning, fly and bee, or crow and swan, like that. Devotional service or fulfilling the demands of mind and senses. This will lead to frustration and miseries, and that will be vikarmic, non-devotional. So only choice is to dovetail our propensities to devotional service, follow the path of transcendental knowledge, and make sure that our life is dedicated to the service of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So that is all I wanted to discuss today in this for this particular verse. It's a very important verse. There is a lot to talk about, and that's why I was trying to stick to the points rather than going through loads of other discussions. As you can see, there are many more verses. 9th chapter is again talks about the important verses and the path of bhakti, that is the most confidential knowledge. And then in 10th chapter, there are verses again where Lord emphasizes his supremacy, his opulences. And in 12th chapter, Lord talks about the importance of bhakti, which is Yetu Karmani Savrani Mai Sanyasya Matparaha. You all know that verse for sure. So I think I will stop here. Otherwise, we will keep. I'll keep discussing about something or the other. So, if there are any questions or comments or any additions, please unmute yourself and please let us know, and we can discuss. Or if there are no questions, then we can stop here. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Really, really enlightening and wonderful class. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Pleasure, Mataji, to serve you. So if there are no questions, then we will stop here. Thank you, everybody. You all are spending your important time for the right cause of listening to the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and I'm sure you all are studying the scriptures very diligently. So just whatever we spoke, it was for the purification and to make sure that we will focus more. And it is a journey together. We all are together in this journey of moving forward in devoting or surrendering ourselves or attempt to surrender ourselves in this process of regulated devotional service and in the mission of Srila Prabhupada. So thank you very much. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.